Hello there, and welcome back to the Sleepy Historian. Find a comfortable spot. Let the sounds of the evening settle around you, and allow the weight of the day to drift away. Tonight, we're not walking through the grand halls of European palaces or the dusty forums of Rome. Instead, we're traveling deep into the humid heart of the Mesoamerican jungle, under a canopy of stars that seem impossibly bright. We are here to witness one of the most sacred and perilous moments in a civilization's life, a royal coronation. But this is not a story of simple celebration. Did you know that for a Maya prince, the very act of putting on his coronation attire was one of the most tense and dangerous moments of his entire life? It was a trial by costume, a crucible of jade and feathers. So, settle in. Close your eyes if you wish, and let us explore why a Maya prince's coronation attire was so incredibly tense. And if you find yourself soothed by these journeys into the past, perhaps consider subscribing. It helps our small corner of history continue to whisper its stories into the night. Now, let us begin. Our story starts not in a grand throne room, but in silence and isolation. Long before the first feather of his headdress is touched, the prince, the heir, is removed from the world. He enters a period of profound ritual purification. Imagine him not as a pampered royal, but as an ascetic, sequestered within the cool, dark stone of a temple chamber. For days, perhaps weeks, he fasts, his body growing lean, his senses sharpened by hunger. The world outside, with its politics and clamor, fades into a distant memory. Here, in the quiet dark, his only company are the painted images of gods and ancestors on the walls, their silent eyes watching his every move. This is not a punishment. It is a hollowing out. He must become an empty vessel, worthy of being filled with divine essence. The food he does eat is ritually simple, often consisting of little more than maize and water, the sustenance of the common people, reminding him of his connection to the earth and those he is destined to rule. He is breaking down the man he was. The son, the warrior, the nobleman, so that a king, a Keuhal Aja or holy lord, can be built in his place. The air is thick with the scent of burning copal incense, a sacred smoke meant to cleanse the space and carry his prayers to the heavens. The tension begins here, in the gnawing emptiness of his stomach and the profound solitude of his soul. He is preparing his body and spirit for an ordeal that will test the very limits of his endurance. This is the foundation upon which the crushing weight of kingship and the literal weight of his regalia will be placed. The physical ordeal intensifies as the day of his ascension nears. The prince must demonstrate his worthiness to the gods, and in the Maya worldview, the most potent offering one could make was one's own life force, Chulal, contained within the blood. In a solemn, private ceremony, he will perform a ritual of bloodletting. This is a moment of supreme focus and pain. Using a stingray spine, a sharpened piece of bone, or an obsidian lancet, objects of immense ritual power in themselves. He will pierce his own body. Often it is the tongue, the ears, or other soft tissues. The pain is a gateway, a method of focusing the mind and opening a portal to the supernatural world. The blood is collected on strips of bark paper, which are then burned as an offering. As the smoke from his own life force rises, it is believed to coalesce into a vision serpent, a shimmering portal through which gods and ancestors can manifest and communicate. He is not just enduring pain, he is actively seeking a conversation with the divine. He is asking for their blessing, their guidance, their acceptance of his rule, the visions that come to him in this state. Induced by blood loss, fasting, and psychological intensity, will define his reign. Does the maize god smile upon him, promising fertility for the land? Does the sun god, Ke-Inishahu, grant him the power to command day and night? Or do the sinister lords of Xibalba, the underworld, cast a shadow of doubt? The tension is in the uncertainty. A failed vision, or no vision at all, would be a catastrophic omen. He would be seen as rejected by the gods, his legitimacy shattered before he even takes the throne. His entire future, and the future of his kingdom, hangs in the balance of this painful, hallucinatory communion. And so, the prince emerges from his seclusion, weakened in body, but if successful, fortified in spirit. He has faced his own mortality and communed with the gods. Now, the physical manifestation of his new status must be assembled. And this is where the tension radiates outward, across the entire kingdom and beyond. The materials for his regalia are not simply beautiful, they are condensed power, each piece a story of conquest, danger, and cosmic significance. Let us first speak of the jaguar, the Balaam, the most powerful and feared predator of the Mesoamerican jungle, a creature of the night, of the earth, and of the underworld. Its spotted pelt mimics the starry night sky. To kill a jaguar was an act of supreme courage and skill. To wear its skin was to absorb its power, its ferocity, its ability to move between the worlds of light and darkness. The prince's coronation attire would almost certainly include a jaguar pelt, perhaps as a kilt, a cape, or part of his throne. This was not a farmed animal. This was a wild, divine beast, hunted in the deep, perilous jungle by the kingdom's most elite warriors. The hunt itself was a ritual, a dangerous dance that could easily end in the hunter's death. The pelt on the prince's body is a testament to his kingdom's might, a clear message that he commands the apex predator, and by extension, the untamed wilderness itself. It is a garment of raw, violent power, a reminder to all rivals that he is not a man to be trifled with. He is the jaguar embodied. Then there are the feathers. Specifically, the impossibly long, iridescent tail feathers of the resplendent quetzal. These birds live only in the high-altitude cloud forests, misty, remote, and difficult to traverse. The Maya revered the quetzal as a sacred creature, a symbol of freedom and wealth, associated with the feathered serpent god, Kukulkan. The feathers, shimmering in shades of emerald, gold, and sapphire, were more valuable than gold. They could not be sourced locally for most Maya kingdoms. They had to be acquired through long-distance trade, or more often, as tribute from conquered vassal states. The presence of a vast, flowing quetzal feather headdress, sometimes several feet long, was a living map of the king's imperial power. Each feather represents a subjugated city, a controlled trade route, a political alliance sealed under duress. It is a beautiful, shimmering symbol of political domination. The tension lies in its acquisition and its meaning. It is a reminder of the constant effort required to maintain an empire, the threat of rebellion from those forced to provide such treasures, and the delicate balance of power the new king must now manage. And from the sky, we go to the depths of the sea. The coronation attire would be adorned with shells, particularly the vibrant orange and red spondylus, or thorny oyster. This shell was not found on any beach. It had to be harvested by skilled divers from deep, dangerous waters off the Pacific coast, hundreds of miles away from the Maya heartland. It was associated with water, fertility, and the underworld. Its blood-red color was linked to sacrifice and life itself. Like the quetzal feathers, its presence in a king's regalia spoke of a vast trade network and the ability to command exotic, life-giving resources from the furthest corners of their known world. Each shell was a testament to the bravery of the diver who risked their life to retrieve it, and the power of the king who could command such a perilous task for the sake of his adornment. The final, and perhaps most important material, is jade. For the Maya, jade, or yak's chich, was the ultimate sacred substance. It was not just a stone. It was the embodiment of life, breath, water, and maize. Its green color symbolized fertility and growth. It was considered more precious than any other material, a piece of the sky fallen to earth. But Maya jade was incredibly hard, more difficult to work than steel. It had to be mined from a single, remote source in the Motagua River Valley of modern-day Guatemala. Control of this valley was a source of immense conflict between kingdoms. To wear jade was to wear the heart of the earth, the essence of life. The king's regalia would be laden with it, Ear spools, bracelets, anklets, a wide beaded collar, and most importantly, a pectoral plaque worn over the chest and a mask, sometimes placed over his face or incorporated into his headdress. These were not trinkets. They were heavy, solid pieces of the sacred world. The tension is in its very substance. It is the weight of life, the burden of ensuring fertility for the crops and prosperity for the people. It is a physical manifestation of the king's soul, his crucible. The artisans who crafted these items were not mere laborers, they were spiritual specialists. A jade carver would fast and pray before making the first cut, asking the spirit of the stone for permission to shape it. They used simple tools, other stones, water and sand, to slowly and painstakingly grind and polish the jade over months, even years. A single slip could shatter a piece that represented a massive investment of resources and spiritual energy. The pressure on these artisans was immense. Their work was not just for a man, but for a god to be. A flaw in the carving, a crack in the stone, could be interpreted as a terrible omen, a sign of divine displeasure that could bring ruin upon the entire community. Similarly, the feather workers, often noblewomen, would arrange the thousands of quetzal plumes into a mosaic of divine imagery, chanting and praying as they worked. They were not just making a hat, they were weaving the cosmos. They were constructing the king's connection to the celestial realm. The tension was woven into every thread, every knot. The final product had to be perfect, a flawless conduit for divine power. Any imperfection could disrupt the delicate cosmic balance the coronation was meant to establish. And so, with the materials gathered and the sacred objects crafted, the day of the coronation arrives. The prince stands, perhaps in a chamber at the base of the Great Pyramid, surrounded by high priests and attendants. This is the moment where all the elements, the prince's spiritual preparation, the power of the materials, the skill of the artisans, come together. The attire is not simply clothing, it is a cosmic diagram, and the prince is about to become its living center. The headdress is the most spectacular element. It is not just a crown, it is a model of the Maya cosmos. It often features a towering central element representing the Waka-chan, the world tree, whose branches scrape the heavens and whose roots delve into the underworld. The prince's head is at the very center of this axis mundi. Attached to this structure are masks of principal deities. The principal bird deity at the top, representing the celestial realm, and perhaps imagery of the water lily serpent, representing the watery underworld at the base. By donning the headdress, the prince is literally centering himself within the universe. He becomes the pillar that separates the sky from the earth and prevents chaos from consuming the world. The sheer scale of these headdresses was immense, often taller than the man himself, a complex and fragile scaffolding of wood, feathers, and jade. Its weight alone would be a test of strength and balance. The pectoral, the large jade plaque worn over his heart, was another critical element. It was often carved with an image of the king himself or an ancestor seated in the pose of a ruler. This was the center of his being, the seat of his soul. The heavy, cool stone resting against his chest was a constant, physical reminder of his duty. He was the heart of the city-state, the steady beat that ensured the well-being of his people. The pectoral was his center of gravity, both physically and spiritually. Around his waist, he would wear a heavy belt, often with a jaguar pelt kilt. From this belt hung ceremonial jade celts, or hatcha, long, thin axe heads that would clink and chime as he moved. This sound was a sacred one, meant to announce his presence. The belt itself often had a large mask of a god on the front, symbolizing his control over the earth. The entire lower part of his costume, with its shells and water symbols, connected him to the earth and the watery underworld, the realm of ancestors and fertility. He was, in effect, wearing a map of the universe. He was the heavens on his head, the earth at his core, and the underworld at his feet. He was the living embodiment of the cosmos, and the tension came from the immense responsibility of maintaining that cosmic balance. One misstep, one sign of weakness, and the entire structure, both his costume and his universe, could come crashing down. Now imagine the physical reality of this moment. The prince, already weakened from fasting, must stand stoically as attendants dress him. The process is slow, deliberate, and ritualized. First, the simple cotton loincloth. Then the heavy, beaded kilt, the jaguar pelt cinched tight. Then the anklets and bracelets of jade, constricting his movement. The wide, heavy collar of jade beads is settled onto his shoulders, its weight pressing down on his collarbones. The massive ear spools are fitted, their weight pulling on his lobes. The belt with its clanking celts is secured. Layer by layer, the man disappears, and a living idol is constructed. The sheer weight of the regalia could be staggering, well over 50 or 60 pounds. In the humid, oppressive heat of the jungle, wearing this would be a monumental act of physical endurance. He cannot show discomfort. He cannot sweat or tremble. He must be a serene, immovable pillar. The tension is in every muscle, every strained sinew. He is being physically transformed, his human body constrained and burdened by the divine symbols he is now required to carry. The physical pressure mirrors the immense political and spiritual pressure he is under. He is literally bearing the weight of his world on his shoulders. The final and most terrifying moment of the transformation is the placing of the mask. Sometimes this was a smaller mask attached to the headdress, like the iconic jester guard diadem, a symbol of royalty. In other, more intense rituals, it could be a full face mask, carved from jade or wood, representing a specific deity. When this mask is lowered over his face, the prince as an individual, the man known as Kainish Janob Pakal or Jasor Chan Kawil, ceases to exist. His personal identity is extinguished. He is no longer a man experiencing a ceremony. He has become the ceremony itself. He is now a vessel, an incarnation of the god whose face he now wears. He sees the world through the god's eyes. He speaks with the god's voice. This is the point of no return. The psychological tension is unimaginable. He has shed his humanity to become a divine conduit. He is now a sacred object, powerful and dangerous. The attendants who dressed him would be filled with a mixture of awe and fear. They are touching a god. They must perform their duties flawlessly, as a mistake could have dire supernatural consequences. And now he is ready. The transformation is complete. The doors of the chamber are opened, and he steps out into the light. But he does not walk as a man. His movements are slow, deliberate, constrained by the weight and bulk of his attire. He is less a person and more a living statue, animated by divine will. He ascends the steep, unforgiving steps of the Great Pyramid, one careful step at a time. The sun glints off his jade, the thousands of quetzal feathers ripple in the breeze, creating a hypnotic, shimmering spectacle. He is a vision, a being of impossible splendor. The tension for him is in this climb. Each step is a risk. A fall would be unthinkable, a sign of catastrophic failure. He must project an aura of effortless power and divine grace, even as his muscles scream, and his body is slick with sweat under the heavy layers. At the summit, he turns to face the plaza below, packed with his people. They have been waiting, chanting, praying, and what they see is not the prince they knew. They see the maize god, promising a bountiful harvest. They see the sun god, guaranteeing the dawn. They see the jaguar, the embodiment of royal power. The roar of the crowd is a release of the collective tension, an explosion of religious fervor. He has succeeded. He has endured the ordeal, carried the weight of the cosmos, and transformed into the Kuhal Ajo, the Holy Lord. His attire is not just a costume. It is the physical proof of his legitimacy, his power, and his divine right to rule. So, when we look at the intricate carvings and painted murals of Maya kings in their coronation finery, we should see more than just beautiful art. We should see the culmination of a long and harrowing journey. The tension was in the prince's empty stomach and his haunted visions. It was in the dangerous hunt for the jaguar and the perilous dive for the spondylus shell. It was in the artisan's careful hand and the priest's sacred chant. It was in the crushing physical weight of the jade and the profound psychological burden of becoming a god. The coronation attire was a crucible. It was designed to test the prince, to break the man and forge a king. It was a suit of armor not against enemies of flesh and blood, but against chaos, doubt, and cosmic disorder. It was, in every sense of the word, the heaviest burden he would ever bear. And now, as the image of the divine king fades, and the sounds of the jungle night return, it is time for our story to end. May your rest be deep, and your dreams be peaceful. Until next time, sleep well.